The decans of the Zodiac are aspects of astrology suited for the advancing astrologer and tarot reader. In fact, those of you more familiar with the tarot are more knowledgeable about the decans than you may have initially assumed. If you're looking to improve your chart reading or tarot reading skills, then this is the series for you. Today we're going to be introducing the 3 decans of Gemini and beginning this journey with the 8 of Swords. Hello, if you're new to this channel, my name is Seth, and I enjoy creating videos that help us in the astrology community stay well-rounded and always thinking critically. If you have no idea what the decans are, then this is not the video for you, my friend. To find out what I'm talking about, somewhere on the screen and down in the footnotes, you will find a link to the preface of this series. You're going to want to check that video out first, get your questions answered, and then meet me right back here. The Lovers and Gemini are both factors influenced by succeeding the Hierophant and Taurus, respectively. So let's recap where we left off in the Hierophant's journey. The last installment was the last decan of Taurus with the 7 of Discs. There we got acquainted with the sense of authority imbued in Taurus by way of leading by example. Let's dig into what I mean by introducing the first decan of Gemini by way of the 8 of Swords, the first leg of the lover's journey. This cautionary tale begins with what happens to those who don't make hard choices. Someone who loses that autonomy established by the Emperor and the Hierophant because they feel and claim that they can't utilize it. It comes down to self-imposed immobility. So now Gemini is offered the chance to assess and engage in new risk in regards to engaging and exchanging values and points of view. A task now arises for Gemini and the Lovers to learn how to differentiate between those new ways of actualization that are appropriate and relevant and those new ways that are not. And therein, Gemini and the Lovers will have to experience both. The first step of this process is to make a choice. Make a goddamn choice. This will become a domino effect, ideally, building a habit of facing the unknown and taking on new risk and despite new fears, following through on those choices. The Emperor and the Hierophant established all the context necessary to derive this interpretation. The 8 of Swords represents Gemini living in a world much more complex than the Zodiac has represented thus far. There may be limited tools at Gemini's disposal here, but to waste them is debilitating. And this is a vital context for understanding the transition from Taurus to Gemini, from the 3rd decan of Taurus to the 1st decan of Gemini, from the 7 of Discs to the 8 of Swords. If this is your first introduction to this series, then you haven't heard about my absolute obsession with context. We can't fully understand anything in our lives without context. Anyone can know something, but to understand it is to understand the context. It's an unmitigated essential. And to establish some essential context of our own, Gemini season is from May 21st to June 20th. The first decan of Gemini spans from 0 to 9 degrees of the sign. So if you were born somewhere between May 21st and May 31st, the sun sits within this decan, closely associated with the 8 of Swords. In the breakdown, I walk you through examples of how to turn all of this theory into praxis, from theory to action. When I was a baby astrologer, I learned my first steps to interpretation, and they were to learn how to discern introverted energies from extroverted. And in old school jargon, it would be feminine energies and masculine energies, respectively. If you enjoy my approach to astrology, the inductive astrology method, then this is also a prime first step to mastering my method. If I see an extroverted planet here, like Mars, Jupiter, the Sun, or Mercury, then I'm focusing on themes of misguided efforts. This most often reveals itself as someone who can healthy risk analysis. If I see an introverted planet here, like Venus, Saturn, the Moon, or again Mercury, then I'm paying particular attention to more classical patterns of passivity. Knowing the classical reading of the Eight of Swords is being familiar. We made it to Gemini and the Lovers card, a new cosmic stereotype for us to dissect and discover, a term coined by Corinne Kenner in her book Tarot and Astrology. Today we covered the beginning of the journey of the Lovers by way of the Eight of Swords. First we recapped the Hierophant before introducing the Lovers, fleshing out the sense of transition that contextualized this leg of the journey within the Zodiac wheel. Next, we spoke on the Eight of Swords in detail, noting its core theme of choice and how the cautionary tale of this card comes from the potential detriments of avoiding hard choices. And we ended on beginner's exercises for the inductive astrology method of interpretation, a means of applying what we've discussed today. If you'd like to access the full version of this installment and all of the exclusive videos in this series, you'll need to become a patron at patreon.com/thecuspastro. Our next installment will be a review of the Nine of Swords, a continuation of our journey of Gemini and the Zodiac Wheel. If you enjoyed this preview and would like to eventually see full videos released for free, consider liking this video, leaving a comment below, and subscribing if you haven't already. These are all major ways of showing support for this channel. Embrace the stars, but always think critically.